And good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Ask Mr. Long Island, formerly known as Mr. Long Island Search for Truth and Beauty, and the name was changed for reasons you don't care about, so I'm not going to tell you. Our guest this afternoon is Janine Giorgenti. Did I get it right?
You sure did.
Oh, man, nailed it. That's what happens when you grow up Massapequa. You learn how to say names like Giorgenti. Janine, you have a company, Giorgenti NY, men's fashion design. You're the CEO and fashion consultant. We're going to talk more about that. We're very excited for you to be here. Thank you very much. My name is Michael Wylde, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island, and today we're going to talk about fashion, a topic I know absolutely nothing about. I just know it's very important, especially for young professionals looking to make a name for themselves in the corporate world. But before we get too far into that, we want to talk about pizza, and the reason for that is, as diverse a region as Long Island is, the one thing every town in Long Island has in common is a pizza place. And every Long Islander will drive past a dozen pizza places to get to a really good one. So I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite pizza place on Long Island?
Well, my favorite pizza place, I actually work on Route 110. That's where my studio is. And my go-to place is where the Starbucks is. And then you have the pizza place and the Chinese place, and it's La
Focaccia.
Focaccia.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. And what is it about there that makes you like the pizza
they're
so much?
very, everything is fresh. Everything is made fresh, and it's made right in front of you. And I think their ingredients are very pure. And their service is great, and they get a great lunch crowd, a great dinner crowd, and you almost feel like you're in your own home kitchen.
And you really want to have to go there, because if it's where I think it is, the parking can be a challenge, right? It's just on Route 110 north of the
Exactly.
LA, over by the Sweet Hollow
with the
Diner.
Exactly. Yeah, parking is a challenge, but it's everybody goes there, and it's like
great.
A real meet and greet kind of a thing.
All right, we're going to add that one to the list. That's a new one. We do get some repeats, but that's a new one, so we're very excited about that. Thank you very much for that. You're a fashion consultant, and I know you work with not only with individuals, with people, but with corporations. Right. Walk us through a little bit about being a fashion consultant and why it's so important that people take their fashion issues seriously.
Yeah, well, it's all about visual communication, and I know that's a big word today, because visual communication can be your website. It could be your magazine display, your business card. But one thing that people don't realize is that your personal visual communication is probably your most effective marketing tool. And if you cannot not take this with you wherever you go. Okay. So whatever it is that you do, if you want to make your life easier, you want to look the part. Okay. So if you're in IT, you want to look like you're the walking billboard of your homepage. If you're in professional services and you want to substantiate your fees, then you better look like you're taking your own advice. So there's a different protocol of dress for different professions, and it doesn't really mean that everybody should be in a suit. I don't believe in that. Right. In fact, today in what I do in wardrobing people, 70% of what I do is not a suit. But business casual is an issue. A lot of people don't know how to put it together, don't know how to make it power casual. And even when you wear, jeans and you're with your casual outfit, there's a way of looking like an unmade bed, and there's a way of looking really smart. Well,
because I want to discuss business casual, because that's a recent development, ever since the internet boom in the late 90s. I want to get to that, but let me come back, because you said something to me that was really intriguing. Right. How you dress is a visual statement, and you're basically telling people a lot about your personality and your priorities based on how you put your clothes together.
Yeah, I mean, whether people like it or not, just by the way we dress, people will assume our socioeconomic status. They'll assume our educational level. They'll assume our profession. Mm-hmm. They'll assume our habits. If we're sloppy, they'll assume that. They'll assume moral character. If you see somebody that's, all piercing and chains and this, that, and the other thing, or someone that's dressed inappropriate, you will equate that to moral character. So this costume that we wear is huge as far as our success or not.
So it's really an extension almost of what's going on in your head. If you think about it, I mean, it's how much thought do you put into it? Is it color coordinated? Do you care? Do you not care?
Does it fit? Exactly. Yeah. Is it appropriate? Is it clean? Is it pressed?
When you say appropriate, what would be inappropriate?
Well, I can tell you the faux pas that people make. Okay, one of them is that people will say, and I get this a lot, well, I'm not going to invest in clothing because I'm on a diet. I have to lose weight. I don't want to buy clothing until I lose weight. Well, we see you today. You know, whether you lost weight or not, we look at you. So if your clothes are straining and if you look ill-fitted, or if you're poorly coordinated because you can't find clothing to fit you, and putting it on hold until you lose weight, which is so easy to do, so easy to say, so hard to do, then that is a mark against you because you don't look proper. So dress the part for what you are, what weight you are. When you lose weight, reward yourself with alterations. I also hear people saying to me, which I think is a big myth, I don't want to dress to look successful because I don't want people to think I'm charging them too much money.
Okay.
And that's another one that I just don't get that. I mean, I think Oscar Wylde said you can never be overeducated or overdressed. I've never seen anyone penalized for being dressed well, but I've seen people very, crushed when they don't dress well. The other thing that people will say is, I can't afford this. There's always excuses. There's a million excuses. But you have to commit to it. You have to say to yourself, well, I'm going to work, or I'm going on that job interview, or I have a job. And when you are working, you're literally interviewing every day of your life because there's so much competition. So the way you dress and the way people perceive you will, it will substantiate promotions. I can give you a perfect example, a story, okay? I had a client with the Bank of New York, and this is when Mellon was taking over Bank of New York. Okay. And this gentleman was third tier in banking. And his, the two people above him, I was making custom-made clothing. So one day Adam comes over to me and he says, you know what? He says, I need 4 suits. Can you make me 4 suits? And I said, sure. I said, but what do you need it for? He said, I'm certain I'm going to lose my job. He said, because, there's a merge and there's rumors and everything. He said, so I need to look the part. I said, okay, fine. So I made him 4 custom suits and shirts. I did the whole ensemble. 3 months, I don't hear from this guy. Next thing you know, I get a call from 212. And it's him. And I said, you're at the Bank of New York in the city? I said, what happened? He said, you're not going to believe it. He said, my boss got fired, my boss's boss got fired, and I took the position in Manhattan because they said I looked the part.
Wow.
I mean, wow. Now, that's where it worked to somebody's advantage. Right. Let me tell you where it worked to someone's disadvantage. One of my clients was a CEO of a huge organization. And he knew he was going to retire. So for 3 years, he was training his protege, right? And 4 times the chairman had made an appointment to interview this guy. And every time the interview came, he canceled 4 times in a row. Wow. One day, impromptu, the chairman comes in and says, okay, now. Anyway, it turned out that he looked out. He said no. He says he's not acceptable for the job. And then my client said, but why? He's brilliant, and I groomed him and everything. He says he doesn't look the part. Wow. And then my client said, but he said he didn't know that you were coming here for an interview. You canceled 4 times. And the chairman says, why do you think I came today? I don't want to know what this guy looks like when he thinks he's on an interview. I want to see what he looks like every day. Now you can imagine this was a huge, huge, huge position. Wow. So, and just by not being dressed properly on a daily basis, that's why I tell people you are interviewing every day of your life, no matter what you do.
Oh, and that's a great line. I'm glad you brought that back because, there's no such thing anymore as job security, and you work for one company for your entire life. No. We're really, you eat what you kill.
Hunt, kill, and eat.
Hunt, kill, and eat. And I didn't know there was a technical term for it. That's good to know.
Very primal.
But you have to come to work every day, not in a suit necessarily, but to look like you send in a message if what you're wearing is coordinated or at least looks like some thought put into it as opposed to just rolling out of bed. You say that's the case? Or, when you're getting dressed in the morning, do you think about that or should you think about it?
Well, I think what I advise my clients, just like people plan everything today, and there's no excuse not to plan because you have your iPhone or your Droid or whatever. So everything is in front of you. You know what on your hip what your calendar is, right? Right. So a lot of things are what I call situational dressing because that a lot of companies now have a business casual code, but situational dressing means that when you have a client, maybe you need to wear a suit. If you're going to a country club, then you need a sport jacket. If you're networking, well, then, of course, you want to represent yourself or your brand, right? So I tell people to look at their week and figure their week out. I mean, what do I need? What suit of armor do I need for that day to portray what kind of image?
So
and
Sunday
figure it
night,
out.
you plan your calendar, you look at all the appointments you have coming up that week, and in addition to figuring out what you're going to discuss in those appointments, you map out a clothing plan.
Right. So you can, because again, this is a marketing tool, and you want to be spot on when it comes to that, or else you're working so hard just explaining yourself, and I'm sure you've seen this, where you see somebody and they're telling you what they do, but they just don't look like that.
Right.
It's just something is amiss, right? And if a person looks really fantastic, I mean, what did I say to you today when I saw you? I was like, wow, you look really amazing, and the way the collar fits you, that's a long tie and you're a tall person. That post blue is a new blue. The watch is beautiful. I mean, everything about what you have on just to me looks like money. I mean, you look like Mr. Long Island.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah. So I was like really impressed.
Well, thank you. And I wish I could say I put a ton of thought into it. You kind of lead into my next question, though. And I was kidding before telling you I went to Catholic school growing up, so I never really had to put much thought into what I wore. Every day was the same thing. So I don't think it's an accident that if you looked in my closet at home, you're going to see 4 or 5 dark blue suits and that one dark brown suit for those days I'm feeling crazy. Is it a good thing to be consistent or dull, or is it bad to kind of almost wear the same thing every day?
Well, this sounds a little out of the box, but people have their own personal color palette.
Okay.
We all have our hair color, eye color, and skin tone. And I could tell you why this suit works very well for you. Because you have pinkish skin and you have a medium contrast, lower contrast between your hair color, eye color, and skin tone. So you're not wearing a dark navy, but you're wearing sort of like a mid-navy, and you're wearing a blue shirt and a burgundy. It's almost a kind of a subdued, not quite monochromatic, but it's subdued, and it works very well with you because you look as a whole instead of a head sitting on a suit.
Okay.
So to answer your question, sometimes I know for me, I look good in earth tones, and
Okay.
I never get tired of wearing earth tones because I've tried pastel blues, I've tried other colors. They look horrible on me. I look sickly. So sometimes wearing similar colors or the same colors, if that's within your color palette, and you're kind of branding yourself,
Okay.
that's
So you
not a
figure
bad
out what
thing.
works for you and you stick with it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's also easier then to coordinate because if you know your coloration and you have, let's say you have your blue suit, and let's say you have a blue plaid sport coat, you can change up your game and wear that sport coat with these pants, or you can wear this as a blazer over a pair of tan pants with a check shirt. So if you have your colors that are coordinated to your coloration, things can kind of mix and match, and that's how I help people to save money. Because although they're spending a little bit more on something for the quality, they have less in their wardrobe, but more multiples to mix and match with.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I find the fact that you make a nice living, a living you enjoy, consulting people with what they wear, fascinating. Walk us through a little bit in the process. Why would somebody hire a fashion consultant? What are the benefits? What do you do for them? Why would they really want to have somebody like yourself help them not get dressed, but populate their closet?
Excuse me. Well, I'll put it this way. I know a little bit about computers, a little bit about social media, a little bit about whatever, but I'll never be an expert in that.
Okay.
If I need my social media marketing done, or if I need a computer issue, besides the basics, I'll go to somebody who's an expert, or else I waste a lot of my time, right?
Right.
So I find with clothing it's the same thing. I mean, people have their profession. People are good at what they're good at. I'm good at managing people's wardrobes. I can look at somebody, whether they're short or tall or wide or thin or whatever, and figure out based on their personality, their profession, their walk, their talk. I can map it out and figure out what they're going to look good in and what they'll be comfortable in. All right. So I have that expertise and I can do that. But then I take it one step further. There are image consultants that will consult, and you have all this information, and it's like, okay, now go to the store, figure it out. And it's like, huh, what? But I actually have the clothing.
Okay.
So when somebody comes in, I do the consultation, I drape them in the colors, I figure out what I'm going to do. But then I also have the clothing that I can do the suit and the sport coat, or I can do the jeans and the t-shirt and the shoes. I have everything from soup to nuts, socks to whatever. So I can put it all together for them.
Wow.
And then manage their wardrobe as they go on. So while they're doing what they're doing, they don't have to be thinking about this. They just wear the stuff and look great.
So it's one less thing for them to worry about, but knowing
Right.
because they're working with someone like yourself, they're empowered to really almost always look their best. I mean, they would have to go out of their way to wear something that was counterproductive to what they wanted to accomplish.
Which is my tagline, Giorgenti makes the best look better.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit. We went into business casual and working with corporations. Walk me through a little bit the relationships you have with a corporation. Why would a business want to hire a consultant, and how do you work with young professionals?
Well, I had an extremely large professional service. One of the big fours had me come in to do a presentation on dressing strategically, from senior partner all the way down to associates. And the reason is that there's confusion as to what casual is and how to make it work. And when billables are in the thousands and clients are in the millions or trillions,
Right.
and you're a brand, your people have to represent the brand.
Right.
So companies hire me to come in to work with their people or to do educational workshops on dressing strategically and the hierarchy of dressing, the dynamics of dressing. I think one of the reasons why companies have me come in is because, again, they do what they do, and they have their expertise. I do what I do. I have my expertise. Also, I think it takes pressure off the human resource department that maybe coming from some companies, people could get their nose out of joint.
Right.
But coming from me, they're bringing in an advisor. So
and also they're covered just in case somebody does dress inappropriately. You can say, and somebody else is offended and they sue. You can say, well, look, we told them how to dress. There's only so much you can do, I would think.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You used a phrase that I found very interesting, dressing strategically. Walk us through, how do you strategize what you're going to wear?
Well, okay, I mean, I know a lot of people use the word dress for success, and I'm
Right.
like so bored with that word. It's like, I'm like, ugh, every time I hear it. And I really think it is, it's strategic marketing, strategic dressing. Strategic dressing, when you ever hear strategic, it means that you gave thought to it.
Okay.
And that's what I think clothing is. I think clothing is, the dynamics of clothing is a thought process as to what to wear in what situation. So it's strategic dressing, and that's why I phrase it that way.
And you tie that into what you said earlier about it being a visual statement of who you are and how your thought process.
Huge. Well, how people perceive you.
Correct.
Right. And then how you feel about yourself, too, the confidence level.
And I think it's really important, particularly for young people who are just starting out in their careers, to understand that every little thing that they do is studied and nuanced, and they're being evaluated on that, fair or unfair.
We are all being evaluated. I don't think age has a cap on that. I don't think it's whether it's senior or young. But I will say there's a lot of good news for young people. Years ago, you could not find. It was like if you wanted something fashionable, it would be expensive. And then if it was something in department stores or in chain stores, it would be, not really fashionable. But today, H&M, Zara, I mean, fashion is at any price today. And that's something that's happened in the last 20 years. That's amazing. Anyone can be fashionable at any price. So younger people have grown up with fashion, and now, of course, when they're in college or in high school, it's more street kind of fashion or college fashion. But now on the workplace, now if you see, especially if you go into Manhattan, the fashion is being led by the young generation.
Okay.
A lot of guys that I see, they look so smart, like in their thinner, the pants, little shorter lengths, skinnier pant, no cuffs, shorter length jacket, more narrow lapels, just really sharp-looking hairstyles and great-looking shoes. So I think there's a lot of pressure on the older people because the young people are really embracing fashion, and they have the figures to wear it, and they have the motivation because as they're climbing up the corporate ladder or making their statement. Actually, I got to tell you something interesting because I had a young guy. I noticed that the age group, like around 23 to 27, is really dressing and taking things very serious. As a matter of fact, I have a client who's a financial planner, and so that age group is really planning for their future. And I'm thinking to myself, why is it that age group seems to be so, into this? And I interviewed a few of them, and they said that in 2009, that's when everything hit the fan.
Right.
When they were in the household as high school kids, they saw their parents, funds get busted up, and they really had to struggle with college and everything. These are kind of kids that are almost like the depression kids
Right.
of the new generation. So they are dressing, and they are more serious, and they are fierce contenders. So, and that's the motivation, because they've seen the fright. They've seen that.
And do you see more fashion consciousness among males, younger males, than maybe you used to 10, 15, 20 years ago?
Huge.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to call it peacockery, but I would say that young guys today are really embracing fashion, and there's so many more options. I mean, that now, you know, men can wear color. You see the shirts with the inside collars. I mean,
Right.
you know, the
Right.
collars and cuffs different, and linings different, and sometimes on suit the buttonholes. I mean, I'm doing all that kind of stuff with people. I've never. You know, 20 years ago, nobody would have done that. You had a choice between a white shirt, a blue shirt.
Right.
And today, it's everything, and it makes it very exciting.
It is very exciting. It's fascinating, and as particularly with young people, as they're struggling to really make the kind of livings that they want to make, I think it's important that they embrace how they present themselves to the world. So, Janine, as expected, this was fascinating. If somebody wants some more information, do you have a website that they can go to?
I do. It's my name. It's Giorgenti, which, well, it's GIORGENTI,
Okay.
and then New York spelled out.com. So it's GiorgentiNewYork.com.
And you also have a Facebook presence, so you can just type in.
I have a
Janine.
Facebook, and if you go on to my website, twice a week I blog, I fashion blog, all about these kind of questions
Terrific.
that you're asking.
Okay.
And yesterday's blog was how to do a double Windsor knot. Next week will be about pant length. So all these things that you're asking me are all blog posts that I try
Beautiful.
to send information to help people.
All right, Janine, this was terrific. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for your time this afternoon. This has been another episode of Ask Mr. Long Island. My name is Michael Watt, a.k.a. Mr. Long Island. Our guest is Janine Giorgenti of Giorgenti Fashion Consulting. Did I get it? Beautiful. Thank you. See you 2 weeks, and take care.